Okay, we're gonna do problem 4. This one's gonna take a little bit of time because we have to do it with factoring, completing the square and quadratic formula. So we're gonna do all of these as 4x squared plus 20x plus 25 equals 0, and we're going to make sure that we're solving all the way down to our x values. And we're gonna do it 3 different ways. So if you already know how to do factoring, you can kind of speed ahead and go to completing the square or quadratic formula, whichever one you're looking for. So the first thing we can do for factoring is that we can do the reverse box. So I'm going to set up my reverse box. So I know when I do my box that I'm going to get 4x squared here. And I'm going to get 25 here. And that these 2 boxes need to add up to 20 because that's my B value. So now I'm going to use the different combinations that multiply to 4. So for this one, I could use 1 and 4, or I could use 2 and 2. And then to multiply to 25, I have 1 and 25, and I have 5 and 5. All right, since both of these are positive, that means I'm going to have both of them as positive factors. So just thinking about it, I don't want to try 1 and 25 because that won't work. That would be already too big to add up to 20. If I have a 25 out here, it's already going to be too big. So I know it's definitely not this one. So I know it has to be 5 and 5. So I'm going to go ahead and put my 5 and 5 here. And now I have to figure out if it should be 1 and 4 here or 2 and 2. So if I tried 1 and 4, I put 1 here and 4 here, I would get 20, and then this would give me 5. So that's definitely not the right combination. So then I'm going to try 2 and 2. When I try 2 and 2, I would get 2 times 5, which would give me 10x. And then I would get 2 times 5 again, which would also give me 10x. And that does add up to 20x. So that's the right combination. So my linear factors are going to be 2x plus 5. Oh, sorry, these should have had x's in them. 2x plus 5 and 2x plus 5, which we could just write as 2x plus 5 squared. And this equals 0. So I need to actually go through and solve this. So when I solve it, I'm going to set each one equal to 0 because I'm going to use the 0 product property. And set this equal to 0. And technically, I don't need to set the second one equal to 0 because it's the same solution. So I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides, and I'm going to get 2x equals -5. And then when I divide by 2 on both sides, I get x equals -5 halves. All right, so that's one way you can factor. You also learn how to slide and divide. So we're going to do that one. The first step for slide and divide is that we're going to multiply 4 times 25. That's going to give me a 100. So this is still factoring. I just need more room on this. 4 times 25 is 100. And I needed to multiply to 100 and add to the B value, which is 20. So when I look at my little factors table, I have all the different combinations that are making 100. So I have 1 times 100. I have 2 times 50. I have 4 times 25. I have 5 times 20, and then I have 10 times 10. So I'm looking for the 2 combinations that multiply to 100, which is why I'm looking in the hundreds box, and add to 20. So I should recognize that it's going to be 10 plus 10. Once I do that, don't forget you need to go back and divide by that 4 because that was the first thing we did was we multiplied by the 4. So we need to undo that by dividing by the 4. Then I'm going to reduce these. I'm going to reduce this to 5 halves. And I'm going to reduce this to 5 halves. So since these are coming out to be the same answer so far, that's telling me I'm only going to have one answer. And then from here, remember, we can just jump to the answer because we can just take the inverse. So that means that x would equal -5 halves. All right, so that's how you would do it by factoring. For completing the square, this is a more complicated one. You can't just go through and do b divided by 2. You have to take into account that this is the perfect square up here too. So I'm going to take the square root of 4 just so I remember that inside the perfect square, I need to have a 2x first. All right, so when I do completing the square, I need to move the 25 out of the way so I can put the right C value in. So I'm going to subtract 25 from both sides, and I'm going to put my boxes in. So I get 4x squared plus 20x plus my box. And that's going to equal -25 plus my box. Now to figure out what goes inside the box, I need to do b divided by 2. So 20 divided by 2 is 10. Now, because I have a coefficient for this, I can't just put 10 in for this second value here. I need to figure out 2 times what equals 10. So 2 times 5 will give me my 10. Then I'm going to square it to figure out what goes in my box. So 5 squared is 25. So 25 goes in here and 25 goes in here. So this is my perfect square. And then I'm going to simplify this side. And when I do that, I actually end up getting 0. So then I can solve this by setting this equal to the square root of 0, the positive and the negative version of it. But when I do that, obviously the positive and negative version of 0 is just 0. So I really only have to solve it one time. And then again, I'm going to solve it the same way I solved over here. And I would get x equals -5 halves. The reason why there isn't a second answer over here is because I can't have a -0. That's just going to give me the same answer. All right, and then the last one, the quadratic formula, we're going to find our A, our B, and our C. So our A is 4, our B is 20, and our C is 25. And then we're going to plug it into the formula. Remember, it's -b, so it's going to be -20 plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is 20 squared, which is 400, minus 4, that's just part of the formula, minus times A times C. And then this is all over 2 times A, which is 2 times 4 in this case. The first thing you should do is simplify this part here. So 400 minus 4 times 25, you put that in your calculator, and when you put that in your calculator, you get 0. So -20 plus or minus the square root of 0. And this whole thing is over 8, not just the square root, the whole thing is over 8. So then I need to simplify the square root, which the square root of 0 is 0. So this is just -20 plus or minus 0 divided by 8. But just like what happened in all the other cases, when I add 0 and when I subtract 0, I don't change that answer. So it's just -20 divided by 8. And I reduce that. I can divide both of these by 4. So it's -5/2, which is the same answers I got for all the other methods.